we've created employment for the youth in this area. And for factual business news, keep it locked on Metropol TV.
AGOA remains a key component of U.S. economic engagement with the continent. We have invested heavily to help countries better utilize the program, including through the creation of our trade hubs, which provide vital resources for African businesses and entrepreneurs. We have also invested more than $7 billion in broader trade capacity building initiatives since AGOA was first enacted nearly 20 years ago. Altogether, these efforts have boosted economic development, diversified exports, created hundreds of thousands of jobs, and supported regional integration across the continent. We are proud of this work and remain fully committed to helping our partners maximize AGOA's benefits for the duration of the program. However, and there's always a however, while AGOA has been beneficial, it has not been as transformative as we hoped, and the gains have not been evenly shared. Compared to U.S. trade with other parts of the world, our imports under AGOA are relatively small. In the strategic clothing sector, for example, total AGOA apparel exports have held around $1 billion per year for the past 15 years. This is a small fraction of our annual global clothing imports of $86 billion. These facts suggest that while trade preferences can be beneficial, they have limitations. The reality is that many of the companies represented here today at the AmCham Business Summit have little to do with AGOA trade. Instead, these companies reflect the intense interest in investment and commercial opportunities in all sectors across East Africa. Which leads to the second development I want to highlight, the United States' interest in pursuing free trade agreements on the continent. Given that AGOA is set to expire in 2025, we are preparing for a future that reflects the economic and commercial opportunities our modern, comprehensive trade agreements can help support, opportunities that unilateral trade preferences like AGOA simply cannot. Our vision is to negotiate a free trade agreement with an African partner that can serve as a model for additional accords on the continent. The country who joins with us to negotiate our first sub-Saharan FTA will set the standard for our future engagement with the rest of the continent going forward. We envision a scenario where the model agreement we establish with our first partner will be adjusted as appropriate to reflect country-specific circumstances of future African partners. Our aim is to craft a model trade agreement that complements and contributes to Africa's regional integration objectives, including under the AFCFTA. We will work with the country to include a high-standard comprehensive accord that builds on AGOA and spurs greater two-way trade and investment. Over time, we intend to have a network of bilateral agreements in place that serve as an enduring foundation for U.S.-African trade, possibly leading to an eventual continent-to-continent trade partnership. The United States has comprehensive free trade agreements with 20 countries, 3 developed and 17 developing, all over the world. Transitioning from unilateral trade preferences to more comprehensive trade agreements positions African partners for greater value-added exports and increased direct foreign investment from the United States as well as the rest of the world. This transition will spur positive economic spillover effects to regional partners and will create a positive trade policy dynamic in the region. These agreements will help create an enabling environment, boost competitiveness, and drive the sort of investment that African countries seek. Positive investment spillovers to regional partners will help reinforce regional integration goals on the entire continent. U.S. companies bring with them quality products, services, and the latest technologies. They are good corporate citizens that hire locally, train locally, and source locally. They bring value-added production and are ideal partners for Africa.
On Celebrity Profile, we look at Sauti Sol. Award-winning Afro-pop group Sauti Sol was formed in Kenya the year 2005. At first an a cappella group, its members included Bien Mbaraza, Willis Chimano and Savara Mudigi, who all met at the Upper Hill High School. Later the group joined by guitarist Polycarp Otieno, who at the time was attending the Strathmore School at the Alliance Francaise in Nairobi. The group formed Sauti and immediately wrote their first song Mafunzo ya Dunia, which later debuted in the studio album Mwanzo, which was released on 1st November 2008. They released their second album, Soul Philosophia, on 25th February 2011, with the single Coming Home earning the Best Music Video Award at the 2011 Kisima Music Awards, along with the Best Fusion Artist Group of the Year. In the year 2015, the band released its third studio album titled Live and Die in Africa.
I wanna be rich, I wanna be famous, I wanna have lots and lots of money. Soar above the clouds, I wanna be free, like Nelson Mandela. Stand tall like a pyramid, so courageous. No place I'd rather be. Oh na na na, oh na na na. There's no place I'd rather be. Oh na na na. Live and die in Africa. I wanna live and die in Africa.
Which was made available for free download to Sauti Sol fans globally on 21st November, accumulating a total of 400,000 downloads during the free period download.
I wanna feel love, I wanna be remembered, I wanna go down in history. Make my mama proud, the darker the berry, the sweeter the juice.
Sauti Sol went on to have several successful tours in Africa and Europe, topping Kenyan charts as well as gaining international attention.
I live and die in Africa. Yeah.
band has also received both local and international awards with nomination on award shows such as Kisima Music Awards, Channel O Music Video Awards, MTV Europe Music Award for Best African Act and BET Awards 2015.
What you gonna do? Run, go meet a dad. You don't wanna do. Well, this is Southeast Soul. Party ranking, what best, y'all? Watch this. Love Confession.
In 2019, Southeast Soul started its own music record label, Soul Generation Records, an investment to the Kenyan and African creative industries 10 years after building one of the most structured independent African music brands. The label is a venture that seeks to mold a generation of epic songwriters, iconic live acts, and consummate musicians. The record label comprises of artists like Ben Soul, Mviri the Storyteller, Kaskazini, and Crystal Asige.
In the heart of central region of Kenya is Murang'a County. Believed to be the cultural cradle of the Gikuyu people, Murang'a County has a total population of about 942,581 people, with the males taking 48% and the females 52%, according to the Kenyan National Bureau of Statistics 2009 National Census Report. The county lies between 914 meters above sea level in the east and 3,353 meters above sea level along the slopes of the Aberdare Mountains in the west. The highest areas form the rain catchment areas from where most of the rivers draining the county originate. Hence, the county occupying a total area of 2,558 square kilometers. Initially known as Fort Hall in the colonial times, Murang'a is the largest town amongst other towns in the county. The county is run under the administration of the first devolved government, with Governor Francis Mwangi wa Iria as the first and current governor, Irungu Kenyatta as senator, Sabina Chege as women representative, and Kula Hache as county commissioner. The physical structure of the county consists of volcanic rocks, with the topography and geology of the county being both an asset and liability to the county's development, which has seen residents engage in small-scale farming and livestock keeping. With the backbone of Murang'a County's economy deeply rooted in agriculture, over 60% of small-scale farmers grow tea and coffee as the main cash crops. With Governor Mwangi wa Iria's past experience as a milk trader, Murang'a County is reaping big from its milk production, with milk producers recording a high of 127 million shillings in between 2015 and 2016. The milk trade, turning up to be a major income earner in the county, has seen a setup of 35 milk coolers, provision of free and guaranteed artificial insemination services, supply of free high-yielding fodder and sweet potato vines to its members to boost productivity. The county's mandate is derived from the Presidential Circular number 1 of May 2008. In this, the department is tasked with developing trade policies looking at promotion of retail and wholesale markets with a look at development of micro and small businesses, fair trade practices and consumer protection, and the private sector development.
Although it's commonly associated with Hawaii, the pineapple is not native to this island. Ananas commosus, as it is known by its botanical name, is native to South America. Christopher Columbus is credited to have discovered the pineapple in 1493 on the island of Guadeloupe in South America. The pineapple was introduced to Kenya by Portuguese explorers who planted the crop along the coast of Kenya. There are many varieties of pineapples, but in Kenya, 3 are mainly grown: Smooth Cayenne, MD2, and Sweet 16. The pineapple has a short, stout stem and 50 to 180 centimeter long, waxy, strap-like leaves. At blooming, the stem elongates and enlarges near the apex and puts forth a head of small purple or red flowers. Each flower is accompanied by a single red, yellowish or green flower. This stem then continues to grow and acquires at its apex a compact tuft of stiff, short leaves called the crown or top. Occasionally, a plant may bear more than 1 head, or up to 12 fused together. Pineapple contains potassium, vitamin B, C, and A, ascorbic acid, iron, calcium, zinc, magnesium, iodine, and manganese. Pineapple fruit can be eaten raw or as juice extract, and the pulp can be made to jam. It can also be made into pineapple wine, pineapple vinegar. The byproduct is then fed to cattle. Pineapple grows well in altitudes of starting at sea level all the way to over 1,800 meters above sea level. They thrive in a climate that is warm, humid, and free from extreme temperatures. Pineapple grow in temperatures between 18 degrees centigrade to 45 degrees centigrade, with 25 degrees centigrade being the optimal. They require rainfall of between 600 and 1,500 millimeter, well distributed across the year. In places where rainfalls are unreliable, irrigation can be used, but only overhead and drip irrigation, avoiding flood irrigation. Well-drained sandy loam with a high content of organic matter is ideal. The soil should be easily crumbled to a depth of at least 60 centimeters. The optimum pH value is 4.5. Pineapples are mainly propagated through vegetative propagation. 3 areas are used: the crown, the leafy growth on top of the fruit; slips, the leafy shoot growth arising from the fruit stalk; and suckers, the leafy shoot from the base of the plant where roots grow. Of the 3, the suckers are the fastest, taking 18 to 22 months to start flowering. Slips take 22 to 24 months, while crowns take 25 to 28 months to start bearing. When planting, it's advised you plant double rows 40 centimeters apart and 60 centimeters between the rows, with 20 centimeters from one plant to the other. This will see you harvest up to 110 tons per hectare, with a further 40 tons per hectare for the ratoon crop. In Kenya, pineapples are mainly grown in Kiambu, Malindi, Kisii, Migori, Kericho, and Homa Bay counties.
there and welcome to Street Beer Shower. I'm your host, Brenda Nyamichaba. Now, the biggest headline when the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich unveiled the 2019 and 2020 budget was that Kenya had a budget deficit of 600 billion Kenyan shillings. This word budget deficit is what made the focus of 2018 and 2019 budget. But the question is, do you know what budget deficit means? Now, as you take a look at this graph, you can see that it was negative from April 2018 going on to January 2019. Right there, you can see the budget deficit was at negative 600 billion Kenyan shillings. Now, we're going to go on the streets and find out what exactly you understand by this term budget deficit and how it affects you.
A budget deficit is when you have a plan, you have a certain amount of money, and you need that amount of money, but the money you have is lesser than that.
It's money that has been budgeted.
Is the excess of the money allocated by the government or the minimum, the less of the amount of the money allocated by the government?
Definitely, it means they're short of amount. It's not yet enough. You still need more. That's budget deficit.
Pesa yenye government inataka kuspend lakini haiko.
Budget deficit, it's money that has been budgeted for, but it's not there. It's not available.
Budget deficit ni ile design government haina do but inadai kuspend.
This is where the government inataka kuspend pesa but haina.
Budget deficit is what we call in terms of because a budget has expenditure and of course the money that will finance it. So whenever the expenditure is more than the revenue or the money that will be used to finance it, then we get a budget deficit in that the expenses are more than the revenues.
After hitting the streets of Nairobi and getting to learn what exactly you know about a budget deficit, it's time for us to get a clear understanding from an expert. And the individual who's going to be helping you that today on Street Beer Shower is Reginald Kadzutu, CIO of Amana Capital Limited. Thank you for being on Street Beer Shower.
You're welcome.
Now, Reginald, I just wanted you to explain to me what is a budget deficit.
Well, a budget deficit is when the government spends more than it can earn in terms of revenue, what KRA can provide for them. So, for example, if KRA can only get 1,000 shillings, then the government spends 2,000 shillings. So the government has gone into a deficit by a whole 1,000 shillings.
And why is it important for us to try and understand what this is and why we should be worried about a budget deficit?
Budget deficit is a worrying thing because it has to be funded, because you have spent the money and you have to pay for it. Then what happens is that the government has to go borrow money to cover that deficit. If you continuously remain in a deficit, that means you are continuously having to borrow. And the impact of borrowing is that on the future generations, they will have a debt that they'll have to pay. So someone says taxes is a punishment now, debt is a punishment in the future.
In the future, wow. Yeah. And what are some of the ways the government can try to cut down their budget deficit?
Number one is to balance the budget. Actually, not number one. It's the only way you can cut off a deficit is to balance the budget. And if the government is to balance the budget, they need to do two things. One, focus on priority areas. You can't try and implement everything in one budget cycle. Two, and try and find out what is the true earning capacity of the country. We end up running deficits because we give KRA unrealistic targets. So if we know that the country can only earn 1.5 trillion, then make a budget within that range.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Reginald Kadzutu. Now I understand what a budget deficit is, and I hope the individuals we're teaching today understand that too. Thank you. Well, there you have it. Our learning session has come to an end, unfortunately, today on Street Beer Shower. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you do again next time because I have some tough terms for you coming out on the street. For now, see you later. Apple fans have a reason to get excited again after the company recently launched a new iPhone exclusive way to make payments and get users hooked into the Apple ecosystem. Let's take it away. Backed by Goldman Sachs Bank and MasterCard, Apple Card is a digital card you apply for and use with your iPhone and Apple Pay. It's also a physical titanium card that works like any regular credit card in places that don't accept Apple Pay. As Apple described, the Apple Card interface in the iPhone's Wallet app is designed to allow users to easily track their spending and pay their bills. The company stressed that in-app color coding will allow users to see the different categories of items and activities that their money is going toward. The app will also estimate how much you'll be paying in interest if you decide not to pay your full balance each month. Apple promises that every time you use the Apple Card, you'll get a 3% back on everything you buy from Apple, 2% back every time you buy something using Apple Pay, and 1% back on purchases via Apple Cash and merchants that don't take Apple Pay. Apple Card was launched in the US with a worldwide release expected soon. Your Apple Card application could be rejected if you're currently lagging on debt payments or if you're listed as a defaulter. To check your listing status, dial *433# or download the new Cristobal app from the Google Play Store, brought to you by Metropol CRB. From there, you will be able to check your Metro score, listing status, credit report, get your certificate of clearance, and view who has listed you in case you're listed. So, is the Apple Card a sufficient reason to switch from Android to iOS? Let us know through our social media handles at Metropol TV KE.
Up until the 1880s, bank employees were exclusively male. The creation of new administrative departments, never in direct contact with customers, coincided with the fast hiring of women in the major financial establishments. Contrary to common belief, women were being taken on to work in banking before the First World War. This was part of a wider movement that saw the feminization of clerical work, with the fairer sex often deemed more competent or conscientious and sometimes even more honest. Women seemed perfect for the jobs that were primarily created at the head offices of the large banks. They worked under the scrutiny of a senior employee who was also a woman, since women had no contact with customers or with their male colleagues. In certain banks, they entered the building through a special entry, and in all the establishments where they were employed, they worked and took their meals in separate rooms. In 1909, women, often young and educated from the middle classes who needed to work, represented 1/10 of the main staff at the Credit Foncier. In 1914, they accounted for almost 25% of the total Parisian staff at the CNEP, 700 out of 3,000. However, these figures hide a disparity in status. Women were paid lower salaries than their male counterparts and had far less job security. They could be paid and dismissed without notice. Their status was often only that of an auxiliary, and it took them far longer than men to obtain a permanent status. Globally currently, women's labor force participation rate is 48.5%, and according to Bloomberg data, in the overall financial services industry, 12% of corporate board members are women. Women are present in all areas of banking activity. The world is keen to promote gender equality in all areas of the workplace, and no doubt.
They said I changed. Maybe they were just jealous because they didn't change. Maybe they were ashamed because they didn't change. Maybe they were disappointed in themselves that they remained the same. Yeah, I changed. like anyone with ambition will remain the same. Yeah, I changed. I changed everything but my name. I wasn't born a miracle to be average. I have absolutely no desire to fit in. No desire to conform to anyone's wishes. But I have every desire within myself to improve myself. Every day, every hour, every minute. They'll say you didn't have enough time for them. Well, maybe they weren't worth your time. They laughed at my dreams and my goals. Well, maybe they were embarrassed because they didn't have any. Maybe their dreams were really nightmares. Maybe their lives was really just a horror story. They said that I was arrogant. Maybe they just hated my ambition. Maybe they were too ashamed because they had none themselves. Maybe I reminded them of what their weakness is. They said I wouldn't make it to the top. Listen, they said I couldn't make it, full stop. They said I would fail, that I would fall, that no one would believe in me. They gave me so many reasons. But they forgot to ask about my desire. They never asked about my willingness to sacrifice. They never asked if I was willing to do whatever it took to make it. Maybe if they did, they would have kept quiet. Or maybe they wanted to ensure they had someone to sit with them at the bottom of the mountain. You know, with the majority of the people that didn't put in the work. Those who didn't have the courage, those who didn't have the drive, those who didn't have the will or the passion to fight for their dreams, to sacrifice, or even to conquer. Maybe they were afraid because they didn't have what it takes to keep up with my drive, to go toe-to-toe with my passion. You know, they say that you'll never make time for them. Well, maybe you only make time for the people that are worth your time. And since there's a lack of those type of people, maybe they're not that type of person. You know, somebody once told me, it's better to be hated for what you are than to be loved for what you're not. You know, it's better to walk alone and be successful than to walk with those that are wandering aimlessly through life and end up in the middle of nowhere. But it's okay, because when my circle got smaller, my drive got bigger. When my circle got smaller, my vision got larger. When my circle got smaller, my circle got stronger. The proof is always in the pudding. You can't fake results. I move on without them. I know I'm stronger. I know I'm better. I know that I'm greater. Without them, it's a blessing. Without them, I keep on growing, moving forward. I'm constantly on the move without them. You're not a puddle. Stop letting them walk all over you. You're not a doormat. Stop letting them wipe their dirt on your face. You're not below them. Don't let them look down on you. Listen, stand tall, walk strong, and hold your own. Listen to me, there is no one above or below you. There is no one that is superior or inferior to you. You must always remain hungry. Don't ever lose your passion or your compassion. Listen to me, you have enormous drive, but don't lose your humility. Put yourself in their shoes, but don't live in them. Live your life. Let them live theirs. Go after your dreams and let them decide their own fate. You said that I would never make it in life. You said I would fail. You said that I would humiliate myself. I didn't have it in me. I was no good. I wouldn't succeed. You said I was weak. You said I was not strong. I guess they didn't know what I knew. That I would make it, maybe not immediately, but absolutely and definitely. The difference between winning or losing, the difference between those who do it and those who don't make it in life, and listen to me, it isn't about talent. It isn't about any type of magical formula. The difference is character. It is your human spirit. And if you're going to make it in this world, living out your dreams or living out your nightmares, it is completely up to what you do. It all comes down to you.
The United States government today will sign a Memorandum of Understanding with AmCham Kenya called Prosper Kenya. The new partnership will support private sector-led solutions to overcome two-way trade and investment challenges through improved market intelligence, specialized trade facilitation services, and policy advocacy. That's big news. The United States, through USAID, also just launched a new funding opportunity that will solicit private sector solutions to increase two-way trade between the United States and countries in the region. We ask you that you visit our booth, USA Marafiki, to learn more about this program and the private sector engagement and trade annual program statement and other U.S. assistance programs. Now, more good news. We are excited to announce another new partnership and funding opportunity with 8 Kenyan pilot counties called Prosper Counties, including Isiolo, Kakamega, Kiambu, Kisii, Kisumu, Makueni, Mombasa, and Nakuru. Kenya's vision for a devolved system includes the private sector growth at the county level. Since this has been difficult for counties to achieve, the United States government is leveraging expertise and relationships to support county-led private sector solutions by investing in business-to-business relationships between the two countries. The United States government, through USAID's advisory services work, helped U.S.-owned small businesses make an additional $13 million in investment over the past 3 months in Kenya. Agriculture, energy, water, and sanitation projects. The United States, over decades, has invested billions of dollars in Kenya's economic development and $450 million of Kenyan AGOA exports each year that support 200,000 Kenyan jobs. Kenya and the United States need to move quickly to define our post-AGOA trade relationship. In other good news, the United States Export-Import Bank has indicated willingness to support up to $400 million in financing for worthy Kenyan projects. We will continue to support Kenya's economic development, foster a level playing field for all businesses in Kenya, and explore improved structures for a more reciprocal post-AGOA trade and investment relationship. That said, it is critically important that we demonstrate concrete incremental progress. The United States government and our private sector partners are fully committed to ensuring that our efforts between our citizens will make progress. The United States' support for Africa comes not just from Washington, but it's demonstrated across Africa.
With global warming on the rise, there's an urgent need to control it. How can you and I help? Well, South Korea's largest automotive manufacturer, Hyundai, may have a solution for us. Let's take it away. Hyundai has released a new generation of its hybrid car, the Sonata, fitted with solar panels on its roof that is intended to boost fuel efficiency and lower carbon dioxide emissions. It added that the mid-side passenger car had an improved engine control system to ensure energy use was as efficient as possible and that up to 60% of the power for the car's battery could be supplied if the solar roof was used for 6 hours a day. The new Sonata Hybrid is equipped with the world's first active shift control technology and solar roof charging system. It boasts a hybrid exclusive design with enhanced dynamic elements as well as a SmartStream G2.0 GDI HEV engine and a 6-speed hybrid transmission. Hyundai's new model also supports a digital key function via a dedicated smartphone app. So, would you own a Hyundai Sonata? Let us know through our social media handles at Metropol TV KE.
Welcome to another episode of Street Biashara. I'm your host, Brenda Nyamichaba. Now, banks in the economy found themselves forced to adjust their portfolios after they pushed 60 billion Kenyan shillings of bad loans to SMEs in the country. Data shows that there was a total of 320 billion Kenyan shillings in bad loans as of September 2018, up from 260 billion Kenyan shillings in the same period a year earlier. Now today the term we're looking at is non-performing loans. Right here I'm on the streets of Nairobi about to go ask questions what exactly they understand by that particular term and if they've even ever heard of it. So let's not waste time and go find out what exactly Kenyans have in store for us today. Non-performing loans. What do you understand by it? Non-performing loans, yeah.
Non-performing loans?
Yeah.
I may not understand anything about it.
Just try what you understand by it. What
Non-performing loans. Okay, let me just try.
Just try.
Maybe it's those loans that they've been given by people, but we cannot see how we are repaying them back.
Non-performing loan ni ile loan yenye imekopwa haijarudishwa.
I think ni zile loan zenye hazileti faida. Maybe unaweza chukua na hakuna maendeleo yenye inaweza leta.
These are loans that government has given out and they are not like non-performing loan and they are not giving back the returns or something like that, or they are not loans that are not being reserviced.
Those are dormant loans which are no longer being paid.
Non-performing loans ni hizi loan za biashara unapewa unalipa na faida.
There are loans which are lended then they don't really
like
I don't know. Okay. If it was a business it doesn't shoot up the way it was supposed to.
Non-performing loans nafikiri ile loan ambayo inalipwa vibaya ama hailipi. lakini sana sana nalipwa vibaya.
Na performing loan ni kwamba wewe umechukua loan lakini ulipi, kwa hiyo mwenye kulipisha hajapata pesa yake bila mlikubaliana.
It's amazing when we come across certain terms and you get to learn that a lot of people around here get to see it, get to experience it, but they do not know what exactly it means. Now today we're looking at the term non-performing loans, and we have an expert right here in studios to help us break down what exactly non-performing loans are and how these particular things affect you in your life. And today helping me is Mr. George Muga, who is the managing partner at AMG. Thank you so much again for joining me on Street Biashara.
Thank you.
So we're just going to jump right into the question by trying to understand what exactly are non-performing loans.
Non-performing loans is used majorly in the banking industry, and in the industry they call it NPLs. What is an NPL? The banks, when the banks give you a loan, normally they tell you must pay a certain amount of money every month. If you don't pay your installments the first month, second month, third month, they classify it as a non-performing loan. That is the point where now they refer you to the credit reference bureau, and your loan is downgraded, or we call it an impaired loan.
Okay, great. Yes. Now, just to continue on trying to understand what the non-performing loan is, why do you think we have a sharp increase in non-performing loans, even in banks, even as banks claim they are scrutinizing risk and customers amid a cap interest rates since 2016?
Performance of loans depends majorly on how the economy performs. Over the last few years, our economy has not been performing quite well. And I'll give you an example. Some companies have retrenched their staff over the last 1 or 2 years. If I took a loan with Barclays Bank when I was working with Metropol, and the loan goes for 5 years, and 1 year down the line I'm retrenched, I'm not able to finance that facility, and therefore that facility becomes non-performing. So majorly, economic downturns is what causes what we call non-performing loans. If you look at the American economy, I think that was 2012-11, the meltdown in the financial sector was majorly because of the dip in the economy. Most citizens could not finance their mortgages, and therefore they became impaired, and most banks suffered a hit from that scenario.
Great, thank you so much for that information, George. Well, there you have it. That is the actual definition of a non-performing loan. So next time when I come out on the streets to ask you what this term means, I hope you've learned, and so you won't get it wrong next time.
Yes, I was doing great. I was really doing well. And then I got sidetracked like anybody in business when you think you're making money. One decision turned to another bad decision, turned to another, before I realized I was being auctioned.
When it rains, it pours.
How do you get a depression with children? I don't know how I did it. As the auctioneers are coming, you're trying to figure out how am I going to pay this, and first and foremost, how am I going to feed my kids? My first production we did in the house, just to see what was there. So we mixed a shampoo in the house. With this, you can do up to about 4,000 lipsticks. My name is Lucy Kimani, CEO and founder of Dawn Industries Limited, and this is the Boss Lady.
Lucy Wahu was born and raised here in Nairobi in Uhuru Estate, the eastern side of Nairobi County. She comes from a big family of 8 siblings, 7 sisters and 1 brother. Her mother was an entrepreneur and she would sell mitumba clothes or, if you wish, second-hand clothing, while her father worked with the City Council of Nairobi. She attended Harambee Primary School till class 8 and later joined Aga Khan High School. She went to Kenya School of Professional Studies to study procurement, which she later dropped it for seeking for job opportunities. Her search led her to Copenhagen to pursue hotel cleaning. While being hosted by a friend, she climbed the ropes from hotel cleaning to housekeeping, and here she saved her money, which she later used to travel to Malaysia, where she did her diploma in pharmaceutical studies. However, today she owns the Dawn Industries, a company that self-manufactures cosmetics right here in Nairobi. But first, this is what you need to know about cosmetics in Kenya. Over the past 10 years, the cosmetics and personal care products industry has expanded beyond a market solely for women to include men and children. Many products are regulated due to concerns over health and performance. Equipped with proven expertise in cosmetics testing, auditing and certification worldwide, the cosmetics industry offers a broad range of services and products. Though it is not easy to establish the share of beauty products in the Kenyan market that are manufactured locally, a cursory tour of supermarkets in Nairobi's central business district shows that there are many imported beauty brands on their shelves. Such as some companies with production plants locally like Unilever and Nivea, who manufacture some of their products elsewhere in the US, China, Europe and South Africa and then ship into the country. The annual cosmetics imports have risen steadily since 2010 to date. Kenya currently ranks 61 in ease of doing business, up from position 80 last year, according to the Doing Business 2019 report by the World Bank. However, the report, which sampled Nairobi only in Kenya's case, indicates that the ease of starting a business in the country, which includes securing a trade license, has not improved since last year. Even with all the attention from abroad, the market's potential has not gone unnoticed. Locally, socialites like Huda Monroe, Vera Sidika and today's Boss Lady are among the few Kenyans seeing business opportunities in cosmetics. Before we get to how Lucy Wahu started, here are some of the things you need to know about Lucy Wahu. How did Lucy start?
When I was in Malaysia, of course, like you go to any other country, you have to register. So I went to register with the Kenyan embassy, and that's where I met a another, like I said, my life has been blessed by meeting really fantastic, great people who have more or less made me be who I am.
Yeah.
The political attaché, is it a political or trade attaché, was called Mr. Lemoshira. He's the one actually who told me about pharmaceutical companies, and he knew 2 companies that actually really wanted to come to Africa. So he gave me the address, I started communicating, came back during my holidays, did my research, talked to people at Pharmacy and Poisons, got to know what was required. So I was able to close an agency, sole distributorship for Kenya. So when I got here, of course, you cannot run a pharmaceutical company without a pharmacist. Yeah. So I got a pharmacist who we teamed up with. The company in Malaysia were willing to give me goods on consignment and of course participate in the marketing, and that's how I started out.
You were doing well.
Yes, I was doing great.
Yeah.
I was really doing well. And then I got sidetracked like anybody in business when you think you're making money. One decision turned to another bad decision, turned to another, before I realized I was being auctioned.
How? What happened?
I just lost focus. I started spending more time outside the company. I started investing in other things, personal things. Of course, there's also, you see, in business, there's a personal and then there's a professional side. So I got more involved. When money started coming in, I got comfortable. So I was spending less and less time in the office, and I was spending more and more time doing my own personal things. And that time, of course, like any other person who pays little attention to their company, I started losing money. I wasn't there to notice it. By the time I noticed it, I was being sent show cause letters. I was being auctioned, being proclaimed. So, yeah, so I went bankrupt.
And then let me get this straight. By this time that you're being auctioned, or by this time that you've signed a consignment with the pharmaceutical company in Malaysia, you're already a mother.
Yes, I was. No, that was later. I became a mother later, after I already started the pharmaceutical company.
All right.
Yeah.
So when you now came back home, how were you able to juggle the fact that you're a mom and now with a pharmaceutical business?
I don't know. That's a very hard question. Any working mother will tell you somehow they work out. You go to work, you go home. My baby, the last born Donna, when she was a baby, when I don't have a house help, I'll carry her with me. I had this really big box next to my office, which had a nice blanket inside. She used to play there, and my assistant that time used to babysit for me. She was a beautiful woman called Rose, so she used to babysit for me. I don't know how I did it. I can't really tell you how I did it. It just...
But it happened.
But it happened. They just grow somehow.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So you get auctioned. What next?
I got auctioned. I had bills. I owed the whole world money, from the company in Malaysia to where my office was, the landlord, to where I was living, which was a rented house. No, how do you get a depression with children? You don't. Your mind races. As the auctioneers are coming, you're trying to figure out, how am I going to pay this, and first and foremost, how am I going to feed my kids? You don't stop to think. You do what needs to be done. That means you juggle. The little money you have, you just need to juggle. So after I paid a couple of bills, I was left with very kidogo. I had 10K. Now this 10K was not enough to pay my rent for my house. It was not enough to pay school fees. It was not enough to do anything. But like I said, the people I have met are the ones who give me these brilliant ideas. So I went back. So when I met Kyoko, and that's where Kyoko was like, by the way, you can start with what you have. You don't need a lot of money. We can just start slowly, and then we grew from there. And that's how I started with 10,000.
With 10,000. So what exactly did you do with that 10,000? You've paid your bills, but as you said, the bills, once you pay bills, doesn't mean that they'll stop coming. You'll still have more bills coming in. You'll still have your rent. You still have your kids. As you said, they need to be paid for school fees. You still need to eat. With 10,000 shillings, how did you rebound?
I can say during the time when I was working or running the pharmaceutical company, I got a reputation for somebody who keeps their word. Actually,